Hey folks, this is Rabble Rouser and Rich Bergeron.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Tornado Tony Pennicott.
And Psychic Tom Patrick. Brand new deck of tarot cards. Ready to go.
Alright. We got a lot of ground to cover. We missed a week last week. Just trying to start a little business on the side here. I haven't really got down to creating the website, but I've got clients. I'm working on stories. And it's basically what got me started with science. I'm going to create a business out of it called Plan B Justice Group. So if Plan A fails, you call Plan B. And hopefully we don't get confused with the Plan B abortion pill. Because we don't do that. We don't do that at all. But yeah, I think it's going to be a good gig. And it's going to allow me to use my talents and not have to write books for the rest of my life to make a living. So we'll see, but I'm still working on other projects too. So it's all going to come out to a payoff sometime. But getting to the schedule here, we had a couple UFC events. We got one coming up this weekend. Thankfully, we don't have any Bellator or PFL stuff to talk about for previews, but we got a big title change in Bellator from last week to talk about. I just actually rewatched the fight tonight to make sure I got every bit of it because I fell asleep right before the main event and woke up to find out there's a new champion. But anyway, we'll start with UFC. Way back when, 2 weeks ago there, we had a big fight with TJ Dillashaw beating Corey Sandhagen by a very controversial decision, but a lot of the primetime, premium viewers of mixed martial arts will tell you that a guy that shows damage isn't necessarily the guy that lost, if he shows the most damage. Sometimes, guy cuts easier. Sometimes, he just gets caught with a bad punch and his eye blows up. It doesn't mean he got hit in the same eye 200 times, Flukes happen. So this was one of those situations. There was a split decision win, but I believe that TJ scored enough points. And I joked about it to one guy who complained.
What did you think of it, Rich? Rich, how did you see it?
I thought it was ugly. It wasn't the best win for TJ, but he did enough to win. And, a lot of people will pick it apart and say that, the significant shots were landed by Corey. But the fact is, you got to put a lot into the ring generalship category. And I believe that TJ controlled the action for a little bit more of that fight. And even if it was just like holding him from behind and kneeing him in the ass, it was control.
Okay, but here's the point. All that spin stuff that Corey was doing was not working. Right. And it gave TJ the opportunity to put the pressure on him, get control of it, and then what would happen is Corey would start that spin stuff.
Yeah.
This is why I couldn't be in a corner. I'd have a stroke. If it's not working, stop spinning. And every time he would spin, TJ would just move on him like a Tasmanian devil and controlled it. So, yeah, I think it was close, but I have no problem with that decision at all. I think it was Corey's fight to lose.
Yeah, I joked
and he couldn't
about
stop
it because
TJ's pressure.
I was like,
and I just can't understand, even when he would, I think one of those spinning, he almost landed, but he didn't do anything. But most of the time, TJ was so quick he'd get his back, and then Corey's up against the fence looking like an idiot for a couple of minutes. I think he's got a good future, but he's going to have to watch the film of that and say, what the hell? I don't know where his corner was at. Stop spinning.
Yeah, I joked about it because I was like,
good for TJ. Good for TJ.
A lot of people were complaining about the grab from behind and the knees to the ass, and I was like, well, you know what? Those might not have looked like
what
much,
was he supposed to do?
but I bet when Corey went to take a shit the next day, he really felt it.
Well, what was TJ supposed to do?
Yeah,
you take what's given.
Yeah.
And it was just remarkable. That old saying, you keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect different results. And I don't know what his corner was telling him, but after the second or third round, it was obvious. Every time he would spin, he'd get caught. And then he got driven up against the fence and controlled for a couple minutes. And I didn't understand it.
Definitely a bad one. I mean, it was competitive. But yeah, Corey had a lot to be desired with some of the stuff that he was still just doing over and over again. And TJ obviously looked rusty, but part of that is just he doesn't have reach. He doesn't have long arms, and he doesn't kick a lot, or enough, I should say. Which probably could help him if he learned how to, throw more leg kicks and take advantage of the reach there. You have a little bit more length with your legs than you do with your arms normally. But he's just a short guy, and he's fast. He moves a lot, but he just can't stay out of somebody's reach like Corey Sandhagen. So it was kind of like a miracle that he could figure out how to adapt and conquer there. So you got to kind of give a guy like that more credit for being able to overcome that little obstacle. But I just don't think he's prime for the top, the championship yet. I don't think he's gonna fight for a belt anytime soon. But it was a great tune-up fight for him, and the guy is still a world beater basically. Sandhagen was pretty much on a roll up to that point, and then TJ just kind of put a roadblock up there. I don't know if they're going to have a rematch or if he's going to move on from this, but I definitely think they'll fight again someday. And we had the co-main event, Raulian Paiva over Kyler Phillips. That was a majority decision. That wasn't that spectacular of a fight, but the one before that definitely proved to be exactly what I described it as. As far as Darren Elkins taking damage to do damage, that's exactly what he did. And,
wow. Wow, what a fight.
It's like he doesn't feel comfortable until he's bleeding. This guy. Just unbelievable effort here. He TKO'd the guy.
There's always that old question that you see in boxing and MMA. If you're in a bar fight, what top fighters would you want with you? And sometimes you might want different guys in different circumstances.
Yeah.
That you have really technical fighters, and they could maybe win in the ring of the cage, but do you want them there in a bar fight? Darryl Elkins the kind of guy I'd want in a bar fight with me, on my side. That was incredible.
Yeah, he's a wild man. Sometimes it pays off, sometimes
it's like,
it makes life
even
difficult.
if you look at some of the greatest boxers in history, it's like in a bar fight, would you rather have Sugar Ray Robinson or Jake LaMotta?
There you go. Well, would you rather have Duran or Sugar Ray Leonard? Or would you rather have Ali or Joe Frazier? Or George Foreman? It's just fascinating. You think about that. And even Holyfield and Tyson. It goes on. It's a fascinating dichotomy to me. And this guy, Tony, this Darryl Elkins, my God. He'd be the kind of guy you could break a beer bottle over his head, hit him with the chair, and he'd just start smiling and licking the blood. Is that all you got? One of those guys. Yeah. Not the most talented guy. But, boy, when it comes to heart, he's phenomenal. He's phenomenal. I've just never seen anyone. I've seen tough guys, but he's right up there.
Yep. And we had Macy Barber beating Miranda Maverick by split decision on Adrian Yanez over Randy Costa by TKO in the second, 2:11 in. Brendan Allen over Puna Haley Soriano by unanimous decision. Nassourdine Imavov over Ian Heinisch by TKO. Mickey Gall over Jordan Williams by rear naked choke, 2 minutes and 57 seconds in. Mickey's famous for beating CM Punk in his debut there. Still looking pretty good, actually. Anyway, Julio Arce over Andre Ewell before that. That was also a TKO, 3 minutes and 45 seconds into the round 2. Sajara Eubanks looking good with a TKO over Elise Reed. 3 minutes and 49 seconds into the first from punches. And then Diane Belbita in the first fight of the night put the beating on Hannah Goldie. Beat her by unanimous decision. And then just the other night we had Pitbull versus McKee, Bellator 263. And it was on the same night as the UFC, which was kind of odd. And I totally forgot it was on because I finished watching the UFC fights. They actually ended a little bit early. And I remembered. So I said, oh, geez, I got to tune in. So I actually only caught halfway through the Mads Burnell fight and then taped it so I could watch the McKee versus Freire because I fell asleep during that fight. But it was Mads Burnell versus Emmanuel Sanchez was a really knockdown, drag out, all over the place fight. Mads won by unanimous decision, but Emmanuel definitely didn't look very bad. He just looked like he was just a step behind, that's all. But as far as AJ McKee, he dominated. I mean, looked like there's no flukes in that 18-0 record. It's all natural talent that built that record. And he took care of Patricio pretty quickly. There was a little bit of controversy on the choke, because it looked like to me, AJ told the ref that Patricio was out, and Patricio really wasn't out. He looked very conscious when he was put back up against the cage, and he might have had a hand in there or something where he could breathe, and AJ just didn't feel enough of a pushback to think that he was conscious, and he just said to the ref, he's out. And the ref barely lifted the guy's hand just to check. Not to say that AJ wouldn't have won anyway from there. I mean, I think he could have figured it out one way or another. He almost celebrated too soon and got in trouble, but that's where he ended up picking up the guillotine when Patricio stood back up from the contact. And it was kind of a fluke, but Patricio was very sportsmanlike about the transfer. He didn't really make a big deal about it. Complained a little bit, but he had a right to. I think that was a screwed up situation. Unfortunately, it wasn't the type of situation that would lead me to believe that it was stolen from him in any way. I mean, it's just shit happens, that's all. Sometimes you get the benefit of it, sometimes you get the shit end of the stick. But AJ definitely earned it. I mean, he put him in trouble and put him in that position to where, he had to show something or the fight was stopped. And he really wasn't showing any, extreme energy as far as trying to throw AJ off, so I don't fault the ref for that stoppage. But at the same time, I'm thinking the next time he goes into a match, he's not going to listen to the guy doing the choke. He's going to make sure the guy's unconscious. Anyway, before the Burnell fight, we had Usman Nurmagomedov TKOing Luis Muro with a knee to the body 3 minutes and 30 seconds into the fight. We had Islam Mamedov before that beating Brent Primus by split decision. Moiti Yamauchi beating Christopher Gonzalez by TKO 3 minutes and 3 seconds into round one. Vanessa Porto over Ilara Joanne. Gadzi Rabinov over Daniel Gray. That was a split decision for the women's fight. Actually, Daniel Carey, I should say. Rabinov won by knockout as well, 3 minutes and 57 seconds into the first. A lot of quick knockouts there. I'm not going to go through all the rest of them. The big one that I was talking about before we got on the air was UFC on ESPN 28, Strickland versus Hall. And this one had a little bit of a controversy going in because of Strickland in the pre-fight interviews was talking crazy, like literally. Talking about murdering some guy who pulled a gun on him. Talking about feeling lucky if he killed the guy in the ring, he would feel good about it. He said that.
Yeah, well, we may have another Tank Abbott here.
Yeah.
Sounds like in different ways. He's like that post-fight interview. Check this out, Tony. The guy says, "Hey, I love the UFC. If it weren't for this, I love fighting. If it weren't for this, I'd be cooking meth in a trailer or probably be in prison."
Yeah.
And you got to think of pure response. God, I mean, he's a maniac.
Yeah.
So we may have a Tank Abbott here. I'll tell you what, he attracted a lot of attention, one way or the other, and I think he. Well, I mean, we'll see. I mean, he just didn't let Uriah Hall start doing that fancy stuff. He just had the pressure on him. I thought he fought a very smart fight. What do you think, Rich?
Yeah, he's just a pressure fighter. And, you know, he throws a lot of those 1-2s and basic kicks and just does everything right. And really, it wasn't until the late rounds where he was really pushing for a knockout where he got himself in trouble. And just everything about him, I mean, it's just tough. He's just a really tough guy. And it would take the most dynamic Uriah Hall.
You can't let Hall get into that rhythm.
Right.
Because you've seen how devastating he is. You could not let him do it. And I think Strickland fought just a perfect fight. Just don't let him do it.
Yeah, he kept the distance really well. He used his reach.
He was mentally destroyed after. Yeah.
And I was really feeling bad for Hall because, I mean, he kind of got set up for a fall because they put him up against some really not super easy talent, but, you know, talent at the end of its rope, basically, before this fight. And they kind of threw him to the young lion. And the UFC has a habit of doing that.
Well, I mean, all right, but Hall's been around long enough. I mean, I think it was good matchmaking because if he wanted a title shot, he should have got by Strickland. Yeah. That was his opportunity. He had 4 wins in a row, so he's been around a long time, remember. And at some point, you fight for the title or you don't. So, you know, quite a setback for him.
But he'll be around for a little bit longer, I'm sure. He might not be in a title run anytime soon, but, you know, they'll use his name and his recognition for his big knockout on The Ultimate Fighter.
What? And you know, he said he had addressed the mental aspects of his game. Because, you know, I harp on that all the time.
Yeah.
But I was in his body language. He'd go back to the corner, and the corner wasn't really talking tactics. They were just trying to give him, you know, a psychological pump up. But it just didn't seem to work. I mean, I think Hall has all the talent in the world, but there's just something missing.
Well, he just got tagged just enough. You know, it's you can almost see the moment in a fight where a fighter loses his will to fight. And he'll still go in there and trade all day, all night, but you see in his eyes, he just knows he's not going to win. At a certain point in the fight, he knows the guy that is across from him is beating him, and he doesn't have a chance. He just can survive. That's all he can do. And he goes from fight mode to survival.
I'll tell you what, though, in that division, a few more wins. I mean, I think the division's wide open.
Yeah. Because
you've got Izzy at the top, and then, you know, assuming he deals with Bobby Knuckles in the rematch, not far-fetched that Strickland's 2 fights away from a title shot, even though he just moved up into that division. But it wouldn't surprise me.
So Strickland was one of the only expensive guys on the FanDuel card that I picked correctly. And then the next co-main event was the other one, Cheyenne Baish, because she got the knockout. But Strickland actually scored more points than anybody on the card because of the 5 rounds and the significant strikes. But Cheyenne Baish got the TKO, and she was expensive too, but not. I think Strickland was $22. She was $20 for the lineup. But those were really the only expensive people that won, that scored the most points. Before that, we had Jared Gooden, who was a big underdog, beating Nicholas Stoltz really quick, 1 minute and 8 seconds into the round. That was a must-have if you were going to win the card there. Melsik Bagdasarian, I did get him on a bunch of my cards, but it was a little bit later in the fight, so he didn't get as much points when he got his head kick and punches knockout over Colin Anglin. And then the big surprise was Jason Witt, because Brian Barberina was really expensive. He was up in the $20 range, and he had a lot of knockouts. What a fight that was, Jason. That was a great fight, but Brian just didn't have enough energy to pull off a knockout at the end. He was connecting, but just had nothing behind it. It was just, everybody was exhausted.
And it was just so exciting. It was just right to the last 15 seconds.
Yeah.
It was back and forth. I mean, both those guys. I mean,
And Chris Grutzemacher.
The kind of fight you hated to see a loser.
Chris Grutzemacher was the ultimate underdog in the fight before that. He was an $8 fighter, the least amount you could pay for a fighter on this card. And I wished I believed him in him for more of my cards, because it would have made things easier. But I think I only had him on 2 cards, And he beat Rafa Garcia by unanimous decision. And Garcia actually scored like close to 100 points in the loss, even though I don't really believe he did much. I don't know where those points came from, but Grits did the job and looked good doing it. He looked very professional. And talk about a chin of steel on that guy. Boy, he took some shots. But anyway, then we had a draw before that. That screwed me up because I had both of those guys on different cards, and they only scored like 40 points each. It was not a good total. I had Jinhu Frey, but she didn't get a knockout. She got a unanimous decision over Ashley Yoder. And I never thought on any card to pick Adashev because he was like going up against somebody with way more experience, and I didn't see him fight before, and it looked like he had all of his stuff in a little feeder league, and Ryan Benoit has been around, but talk about a running attack. Adashev ran around the cage the entire time and just pitter-pattered shots here and there, and did a couple takedowns, and Benoit, if it was a toe-to-toe fight, would have destroyed him. But it just wasn't to be. Like, he just could not corner the guy. So that was unfortunate because I thought, based on his experience, Benoit should have handily won that one. But you can't predict shit like this sometimes. It's just very hard to do. First fight of the night was also a bad one. I think I only had Philip Rowe, the winner, on a couple of my 6 cards. And Orion Koski was undefeated going in. Got TKO'd in the second round, 4 minutes and 21 seconds in. That's it. So we got a couple of those stories of guys coming out of retirement before we get to boxing next, and then the preview after that of UFC 265. Luke Rockhold is going to be coming back to face Sean Strickland at UFC 268. So a quick turnaround for Strickland. And bringing a guy back from retirement. Luke's been out for 2 years, 2.5 years. Or, no, 2 years.
Well, I'll give him credit, fighting an up-and-comer. I'll really give him credit for that.
Yeah.
Wow.
They both verbally agreed. UFC 268 expected to take place on November 6th, headlined by a welterweight championship rematch between Usman and Covington. So Rockhold will be fighting for the first time since a move to 205 pounds resulted in a second-round knockout loss to Jan Blachowicz at UFC 239 back on July 6, 2019. 36 years old and ready to throw again. I guess he got sick of spending too much time with the family.
So Rockhold's going back down to 185. How about that?
Yeah. Chad Mendes also ending his retirement, but not to go back to MMA. He's going to the bare knuckle scene, which is puzzling because he was mostly a wrestler. I don't remember him being that great on his feet, but a fighter is a fighter, and if there's a paycheck there, why not give it a shot? He's going to compete at 155 pounds, and he says, I just signed a big contract. I'm coming back to fighting, but I'm not coming back to MMA. I'm coming back to boxing. I'm going to try something different. I think we're going to throw some bare knuckle in there. Just mix it up and get real crazy. This is something that's been kind of in the works for probably a year now. So, they must be offering some good money, too. They call this a lucrative deal. He called it the most lucrative deal of his whole fighting career. So, yeah. I guess it's getting popular. So, boxing. We have some stuff coming up. Box Rec. Last week, we had a lot of fights. Andre Durrell beating Christopher Brooker. I didn't get to see any action, but...
Yeah. And Brooker is actually out of my old gym in Philadelphia, and I don't know him personally, but he's friends with a lot of friends of mine, and to say they were shocked and disappointed is an understatement.
Yeah.
I mean, Durrell looked good, though. I think what happened is if you go back to that first round, Durrell landed a straight left right underneath, the rib cage. And you could see Booker wins. And I don't think he ever recovered from that. I think it was kind of like that was the beginning of the end right there. And, and Durrell was like a shark that smelled blood. So you got to credit him on that. I mean, he looked good, 37 years old.
Oh, also, before I forget to mention it, have you seen this guy, Richard Torres, I think is his name? The Olympian there?
He fought Booker.
He fought what?
Didn't he fought, right?
What did you say? Guy that just fought.
He fought on that card, right?
No. I'm talking about the guy that's in the Olympics right now.
Oh, no, I'm thinking of somebody else on the card. I'm sorry. I haven't.
Oh my God. He reminds me of a little bit of me and a little bit of you mixed into one guy, as far as his amateur boxing style. But he's a southpaw, so that kind of screws it both up. But
Okay, so let's see. So if you're combining me and you, he's going to have a good jab, and he's going to try to control the pace with the jab. But then he becomes a gunslinger.
yeah, basically.
Is that right?
He's been busting people up. He just went through another semifinal yesterday, won by TKO over Kunkabayev. I can't see what country he's from, but Richard Torres Jr. Yeah, you look him up. He's just got a great style. He's beat a guy from Kazakhstan. That's what he was from. And he's a super heavyweight, but he doesn't look it. He looks like a normal heavyweight. And I've just been really impressed with his fighting style. He's definitely going to be fighting for the gold, I think. But, yeah. Oh, Sunday, August 8th, 2:15 a.m. He's going to be fighting some guy named Jalalolov. I don't know.
And that's the one thing that, I think a few things that have really hurt, Olympic boxing over the last, 30 years now. And I would say it really started, I think, with the 2000 Olympics. Because I remember even in '96, I was down the shore the one weekend, and we were able to watch the Floyd Mayweather fight. It was Mayweather. We watched Mayweather and Carver, both lose in the semifinals and get bronze medals, both on very close decisions. But it's like, back then, you had the Olympic boxing was in prime time. And I know a lot of what hurt it was when they went to that crazy, goofy pin pad scoring, where like a barely registering jab was the same as like a
glove
vicious right hand. Yeah, like a lot of that I think really hurt it. But now they're getting away where you don't have to wear headgear anymore.
Well, the women are wearing headgear though. What's up with that?
But you got to get it there.
Are they trying to say something?
No, I heard it.
With women?
I knew they were getting away. I knew they were getting away with that. Well, if you go back to '76, they didn't wear it in '76. Look at Chick Ray Leonard. Like, look at guys prior to that, like Ali and Frazier and those guys. They didn't wear.
I found it weird. Like the women's competition, they had them wearing headgear, and the males they didn't. Is it a choice? Is it like they can choose to do it, or is it like women have to wear them and men
that I'm not sure
don't? Because I was confused by that, but nobody explained it. And it was like, all right, well, women want to be equal and everything. Why wouldn't they want to not wear headgear? Oh.
But yeah, it's hard. Like now the fights are on at 2:15 in the morning, right? I mean,
well, that's when
like, oh, shit, there's some fights on.
that's when it's actually happening, but that's not when they show it. They usually show it late the next day or something like that, or in the morning. I mean, it depends on what channel you're watching, because there's like a whole Olympic channel now. You got cable, and then there's the channels that are on network TV that have it, and just the extra sports channels have a couple. couple different looks at it, but most of the stuff is replay. It's not live.
Well, you know I'm going to give an attitude on everything.
But anyway. So yeah, it's been fun watching a little bit of it. Most of it was in the middle of the day that I actually saw on TV. But Torres, yeah, once I saw him for the first time, I started following him on Facebook. So actually, I think his father has a Facebook page that he's been promoting him on. And so I've just been looking out for those posts. And he just looks really good. So check him out, Richard Torres Jr. Also last week we had Tommy McCarthy losing to Chris Billam Smith. Never heard of that guy. And a guy named Karen beating Roberto Ariaza. Karen Chukadzian. I'm assuming.
Definition of the term Karen.
Yeah. I'm just supposing here that Roberto is a guy. That's why. So seen crazier things, but anyway, that fight happened last week. Avni Yildirim losing to Jack Cullen. Also, Anthony Fowler beating Rick Mueller. In a Jesus draw, we had Andrei Velikovsky drawing against Jose de Jesus Macias. Also, I believe this was an upset. Ken Zhu, I think he's pretty hyped up, good fighter, losing to Lee Wood. And before that, Nathaniel Collins beating Felix Williams. Christian Tapia over Mason Menard. Carlos Daniel Cordoba over Emiliano Dominguez Rodriguez. And Michael Polite Coffee losing to Jonathan Rice last Saturday.
I know. Did you see that?
I did not see it, but Rice
I saw it.
Coffee.
I watched that.
Never in my personal life has that ever happened. Coffee always wins in my life.
They were saying like, and I'm gonna bring back a name now, and Tom's gonna light up when he hears this. You know, they were talking about like, oh, this is almost like Buster Douglas beating Mike Tyson. I don't agree with that. Coffee was, a fighter, 2 tours in Iraq, undefeated, had some talent, where, on the flip side, you're looking at an opponent that was brought in to be just that, an opponent. He's had some good fights, had some not good fights. But from the very beginning, they're like, he's like Buster Douglas, he's focused tonight. Look at the way he's throwing his jab. Look at the way he's doing this. No, what it was, taking advantage of maybe a guy that was a little bit more hyped than he should have been. Maybe it was a guy that wasn't, as naturally talented as they were touting him to be. Whereas Mike Tyson was the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. But here's what it reminded me of. It reminded me of back in, I think it was like the late 80s or early 90s. There was a fighter out of Philadelphia named Fearless Freddie Pendleton. Freddie Pendleton was 15-15. He was a guy that was always on ESPN, but he was always the B-side. And you could tell, he was a talented fighter, and a lot of times his problem was he just didn't want to put the training in. And he gets on ESPN 15-15, and he's going to fight Roger Mayweather, who was a former world champion. And this was basically a keep busy fight for Mayweather, a guy that he should beat. And Pendleton decided to dedicate himself going into that fight. And he ended up knocking Mayweather starched out cold in the 6th round. Vicious right hand, knocked Mayweather out. And after that, the Freddie Pendleton that you saw was a different guy. He was a guy, they said, got to the gym earlier, would do a little bit extra of the road work. He was a guy that got a little bit of taste of that success and said, oh shit, I think I kind of like this. I want to keep it up. And he ended up turning in, to a world champion. And, he had a lot of good fights. Won the lightweight title. I think he fought with Tracy Spann, I think. And then he eventually lost his title to one of the Ruelas brothers. I don't remember it was Gabe or Raphael, but it was, via decision. So sometimes a little thing can nudge a fighter.
Yeah.
And maybe it pushes them to, tap into that natural ability they have. So, I mean, Tom, I think, that would you would remember that, because I'm sure you would remember Freddie Pendleton.
Yep, sure do.
What about to meet him?
Well, another Olympic story I forgot to mention. There was some biting in a boxing match. Moroccan boxer Yunus Bala tried to bite New Zealand's David Naika, and couldn't latch on, apparently. He was behind on points in the third round, and they got wrapped up in a clinch, and the referee didn't actually see the attempt, but the other guy did, and he said he didn't get a full mouthful. Luckily he had his mouth guard in, and I was a bit sweaty. But the worst one was in wrestling. I saw this earlier in some feed of mine on my phone or something, or in the Google alerts. But so there was this guy, I don't know which team he was on, what country, but they were in one of the semifinal matches, and he got caught in a hold. So supposedly it was unintentional, they said, but he bit the guy on the bicep area, and there was like a print, like you were setting up a mouth guard in hot water. All the marks that are on the inside of the damn thing. That's what his arm looked like for a minute. And they said that was unintentional. So they didn't penalize the other fighter, or the wrestler. But that was the weirdest thing I've seen in the wrestling so far. Guy had a great come from behind win this morning. Taylor is his name. I think David Magic Man, they call him. And it was at 189. And he got like a stalling point, and then a couple other points the other guy got from Iran. And they had fought before, they had wrestled before, and the American won. So the American ends up getting a takedown, so it's 3-2, and it's like a minute left. And they call the guy the Magic Man, so you're expecting something last second anyway, but he pulls off this last second takedown, literally like 10 seconds counting down, and he manages to slip it in there and ends up getting a 4-2 win. It was pretty thrilling. But anyway, boxing this weekend, we got some stuff we got to talk about. Luis Collazo fighting this weekend. Let's see. Find it. A lot of international
no, man, I was like, Luis Collazo, guys still putting in.
Yeah. Over in the UK on DAZN, we have the other big fight card with Kid Galahad in the main event at featherweight, 27-1, fighting the James Dickens, 30-3, for the vacant IBF World Featherweight title. And then we got the Fabio fight of the week in the co-main event. Fabio's undefeated, 11-0. Fabio Wardley fighting Nick Webb, who's 17-2 at heavyweight. That's for the BBUFC English heavyweight title. Nothing too crazy spectacular on the rest of that card. Oh boy. In the United Kingdom, though, on another card, we have a heck of an opponent here, fighting 1-0 Tommy Jacobs. We have Kevin McCauley, who's 15, 209, and 12. 209 losses. Looking for big 210. Down in Plant City, Florida, we have Chevelle Halbach in a main event title fight. Or no, not a title fight, but main event. She is 32-8-2, fighting Logan Haller, who is 9-0-1. Haller versus Haller back. That's funny. All back. Kendrick Ball Jr. down in Springfield, Massachusetts, 16-1-2, fighting Tai Edmonds, who's 14-3 for the WBC United States Silver Super Middleweight title. We've got a couple of 7-0s in the co-main event. 7-0 Jeffrey Torres and 7-0 Josh Wagner. Fighting each other there at welterweight. That's about it there. Here's a mismatch of the week, possibly, even though this guy's undefeated on Fox. Gabriel Maestri, he's only 3-0, fighting Michael Fox, who's 22-2-2 for the WBA interim world welterweight title. And that's the fight that Luis Collazo is also on the lineup. 39-8 coming in at welterweight, fighting Imantas Stanionis, who's 13-0. That should be an interesting one. And Devin Alexander also on the card, 27-6-1, fighting Lucas Santamaria, who is 11-2-1. Not to be confused with the Nino and the Pinto. Santa Maria. Alright, so that's about it. There's big stuff this weekend coming up. What else we got? Alright, so we got Derek Lewis versus Cyril Gane coming up. Big heavyweight fight this weekend.
The Black Beast.
Yeah, the
Black Beast.
The Black Unpredictable Beast.
You heard it here first.
I think he has an excellent shot. But I wonder. Cyril Gane has been very puzzling. Sometimes he looks dominating. Other times he looks like he's just trying to make it look like a sparring match. And he has no power. He just has technique. But the problem is, is he going to be able to use that technique and keep his distance? Because Derek Lewis is going to have to bull his way right in there to knock him out. And I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know if Gane can weather that storm.
Well, the odds makers, the odds makers have it about a 2-1 or 3-1. They have Gane as the favorite. But the Beast, this is it for him.
Yeah.
I mean, he knows he's going to run out of chances. And I'm telling you, he seems like he's in a much better place than physically and mentally. So
I hate the way Gane fights.
Says there's going to be some fireworks.
I really do. I'd love to see the guy get his ass knocked out so he fights like a real heavyweight. But at the same time, I don't know. I think he's too technical. He's going to stifle Derek. And it all depends on what shape Derek is in coming in, because I know he's got a bad knee. So if Gane can keep his distance and do a lot of leg kicks, it's going to be a bad night for Derek. But if Derek can make it quick and get in there and confuse him and put him out of sorts quick, it's really a 50-50 fight for me. I don't even know who to pick on paper,
Yeah, I mean, you don't count the Beast out.
No, I don't. I give him a puncher's chance, but it's like one of those situations where if I'm going to pick him to win, it's probably going to happen in the first or second round. If I'm going to pick Gane to win, it's probably going to be a decision. But either way, it's a tough one to predict. Who's going to actually do it? Who's going to actually take advantage of their game and execute perfectly? I don't know. You like to go with the undefeated guy, too, a lot of these situations. But Derek Lewis is just so capable of a knockout. You can never count the guy out. And then we have Aldo versus Munoz in the co-main event. Jose Aldo and Pedro Munoz. That should be an all-out, drag-out war. Those two guys are known for battles. Aldo comes in at 29-7-0. Pedro 19-5. And I don't know. Jose Aldo's looked pretty good lately. Munoz is a killer too, so that's another toss-up. This is going to be tough to do a FanDuel lineup on this one. It's a very competitive fight. I'd say if I had to, gun to my head, pick the two co-main events there, I'm going to go with Lewis. I'm going to say he gets the knockout. Like Tom says. I'm going to trust Tom.
That's my gut feeling. My crystal ball saying Black Beast.
All right. And then I'm going to go with Jose. Jose over Pedro. I think he's got it. He's putting it all together. And Michael Chiesa taking a step away from the broadcast booth where he's been lately. commentating on a couple fights. 18-4 is his record, going in against very tough Vicente Luque, who was 20-7 with 1 draw. I like Chiesa in this one. He's very good on the ground, and if he gets him there, he's probably going to take him out. Submission. Tisha Torres, Tiny Tornado, 12-5, fighting Angela Hill, 13-9. Angela's been really hyping up, waiting for this fight. She keeps getting shit canceled, so hopefully this one actually happens. Last week we had a situation where, I realized that, you have to watch the events leading up to the fight time because, fights get canceled all the time. We had a situation where a fight got canceled and then put back on the card. It's a very weird situation, so that turned out to be one of the ones that you had to have the winner of. Gooden. You had to have Gooden on that to win the whole thing. So, yeah, it was crazy. You had to keep up on it. We also got Yadong Song, 16-5 with 1 draw, fighting Casey Kenny, 16-3 with 1 draw. Bobby Green, 27-11 with 1 draw, fighting Rafael Fiziev, who's 9-1. Vince Morales, 9-5, fighting Draco Rodriguez, who's 7-2. Alonzo Menefield, 10-2, fighting a blast from the past here, Ed Herman. Where's he been? 26-14. Carolina Kowalkiewicz coming in at 12-6, fighting Jessica Penne, who's 13-5. Manel Cape, he's 15-6, fighting Odie Osborne, who is 9-3. Miles Johns in the third fight of the night, 11-1, fighting Anderson Dos Santos, who's 21-8. Then we got Victoria Leonardo, 8-3, fighting Melissa Gatto, who is 6-0-2. And first fight of the night, Johnny Munoz Jr., 10-1, fighting Jamie Simmons, who is 7-3. And let's see what else we got. Last story, I think, here is Sean Merriman. Remember we talked about him possibly doing that cage boxing gimmick thing that never came to fruition? Well, apparently he's still talking about getting into the cage. He retired at the end of 2012. He's a Pro Bowler, outside linebacker for the San Diego Chargers. And he's been doing a lot of projects, but he actually ended up starting his own MMA promotion called Lights Out Extreme Fighting. The organization was set to have their 5th event on April 24th, 2020, but the event had to be canceled due to coronavirus. And after the recent reopening of California, Merriman has strategically decided to bring back the cage event. And it's going to take place on Saturday in Los Angeles. But we did an interview with him about it and talked about whether he'd ever put on the gloves. He says he actually talked about the Aaron Rodgers situation too. I asked him what he made of that, and he said it is and should be. He says the players know that they got a role, and the players know that they don't sit up in the front office. You don't control your destiny. You're going to be cut, waived, traded. It happens to the best of the best, right? Aaron Rodgers won't be the first one that had a problem with the organization before. I think that where the Packers messed up is they go out and draft a quarterback in his position when he has some good years left in him. And then you can go out and try to help him win a championship now by bringing in another tight end, bringing in another offensive lineman, defensive lineman, or cornerback, somebody that's going to help you guys win a championship now. What they told Aaron Rodgers is, we're ready to move on from you at any point in time. So you draft a guy in the first round. First round guys, they're supposed to play. They're supposed to get on the field, so they hedged their bets. They were wrong, and now they're eating crow. Aaron Rodgers basically said in a press conference that he named all the guys they shoot out the door. He also said he knows he didn't make any decisions, but said, hey, let me be part of the conversation. I got to throw to these guys. These guys got to block for me. So that's all he said. I don't think anything he said is wrong. Oh, crazy. So they asked him eventually, you thought about fighting as you got into an MMA company, as you have the name value that I think would put more eyes on the product. Is that something you've been thinking about more in the last couple of years? He says, yeah, no question about it. Even sometimes now when I go and I spar with guys that are in Bellator and UFC, whatever, after we get done, if they haven't seen me train before, the first thing they ask me is, when are you going to fight? For me, I respect this for too damn much to go and try something out. I'm all in, or I'm not doing it at all. For me, it's great to go and spar on a Friday or a Wednesday or something like that and get some work with the guys because it keeps me going. But it's not one of these things that you got to try out. You can play football, you can play basketball, you ain't playing fighting. So when you do that, I realize that these guys and women are training their ass off sometimes twice, 3 times a day, 6, 7 days a week. You better be ready because it's a different kind of mentality when you step in there with someone who does this shit for a living. I say it all the time. I said, look, you're going in there, you're playing around with people who do this to feed their families. The mentality is different. I love going in and I'll get after it. I'm going to go 3 or 5 minute rounds of sparring in. Sometimes I get a little crazier than others depending on who you're training with, but for the most part I feel better when I do that. My body feels good, I feel active, I feel healthy and alive. But to actually do it big, the only place I would fight is lights out. If there was a big enough guy that people want to see, whoever it is, and it made sense, and I knew that people would buy pay-per-views and tune into it, I'll start training tomorrow in lights out. Until then, I enjoy promoting all these men and women that fight out for lights out extreme fighting. Then there was another controversial crossover fight / celebrity boxing deal announced. I put it on my Facebook. But this is the last big story I want to mention. Riddick Bowe, our former guest, versus Lamar Odom.
Yeah, you put out there that this concerns you.
Yeah. I don't think Bowe's in any shape for this. I mean, mentally or physically. And we know what happened when he went.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
Tried to do that exhibition right after our show that he was promoting. He got kicked 7 times in the leg and went immediately down. That's his last competition as far as I know. So, I mean, what's different now? I just don't know. He doesn't, I mean, I saw the picture and everything that they used to promote it, and he doesn't look any different. So, I think that's a bad idea for him. I mean, I'm not saying Lamar Odom's the greatest boxer in the world either, but he's in shape. You know, looks halfway decent. He's skinny. He's a tall guy too, so yeah, I don't see this going well unless it's like a real exhibition for show only. And it's like 2-minute rounds, 3 rounds or something. And yeah, I'm not so worried. But if this is like going to be serious action, yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's a good idea for Riddick. But he's entitled to do what he needs to do to make money. More power to him if he wins and proves me wrong. I don't know. What does your crystal ball say about that one, Tom? You lose him again? Tom! Right.
Yes, sir.
Oh, there he is. What does your crystal ball say about Riddick Bowe versus Lamar Odom?
Oh my God.
Same thing.
Yeah, I guess I'm going to be morbidly engrossed in watching. But as far as the winner, my God, and how sad that Bo's at that level. Hey, we can't be surprised. So you know, Rich, I'm surprised he didn't remember calling you out.
Yeah,
remember
right.
He said he wanted to fight you.
Yeah. That was funny because, like, I was really having to call in my skills at being able to understand people when they're slurring speech and, you know, not using perfect English and all that. And you know, then he said that, it was like clear as day. He was loud about that one. He's like, "How about I fight you?"
Well, you know, I don't know if you're enough of a celebrity to make money.
I don't think so.
But if he beats Odom, maybe. What do you think?
I'd rather fight Dana White.
I don't think Dana fights.
No.
Dana doesn't need to fight.
No.
You know that.
Yeah, I'd have to fight his security first if I was going to get a fight with him. But anyway, yeah, that's the latest. That's all she wrote for us, I believe. Until next week, I'm gonna work really hard to get us some type of guest. I mean, I keep getting all these people signing up with different companies and young up and comers. It would be really easy to get an interview if I just asked, but I haven't been asking. So I'm gonna get on that this week. We're guaranteeing officially a guest for next week. I don't know who it is yet, but we're gonna have somebody.
It can't hurt to ask.
Right? Somebody will say yes.
They're like, we want to talk to these fools.
Right. All right, guys. Thanks a lot.
Worked before. All right. Well, have a good weekend, gentlemen.
All right, guys.
I got a lot of tomfoolery to get to this weekend.
All right. You do that.
I'll see you later.
Adios.